I didn't forget the mission. I forgot what came before it. We were told to seal the cave, but the cave had already sealed us. It didn't trap our bodies. It took something slower. The red light didn't shine. It watched. It responded. Every time we blinked, it blinked back, a second late. And then I heard it whisper my future, word for word, before I lived it. I don't know what came back from Baigong, but I know it saw me first. The wind at this altitude doesn't blow. It grinds, like it's trying to scrape something off the mountain that doesn't belong. Our boots hit the permafrost in sequence, 12 of us, wrapped in Arctic camo, eyes hidden behind Type 03 NVGs. The ground beneath us vibrated, just enough to make your teeth buzz. We were supposed to be a geological recon team, but we all knew better. They don't send sappers and a Russian cryptographer to fix thermal anomalies. The Baigong formation loomed ahead, impossible pipe-like shafts erupting from jagged basalt, untouched by any known tools. Sergeant Fay grunted, eyes on the slope. Locals won't guide us. Say the cave eats breath. I adjusted the scanner pack on my back. Static licked the edge of every frequency band. No signal clarity, no satellite lock, just a drifting hum. Even our maps didn't agree. Our GPS coordinates shifted by meters every few minutes. Warrant Officer Sokolov, the GRU observer, said nothing. He just stared through his thermal scope at the mouth of the cave, muttering something under his breath that sounded like reverse prayer. Lieutenant Liu signaled us to move. The locals had warned of ground that loops. We used chalk to mark the path behind us, but less than 20 meters in, the marks were gone, either erased or overwritten. Private Zhang pointed to the stone wall. "It's bleeding," he said. And it was. Crimson threads, faint but pulsing, ran beneath the surface like veins. I blinked. The threads were gone. Only rock remained. Fay touched the wall. "It's warm," he muttered. That was impossible. At this altitude, nothing should hold heat. The light inside the cave wasn't black. It was red, visible only through NVG optics, pulsing in a perfect octagon. It didn't illuminate. It just watched. The cave throat narrowed around us, swallowing daylight whole. Inside, our floodlights caught on iron formations, jutting from the basalt, like rebar torn from the skeleton of the earth. But they weren't man-made. The bends were too smooth, too organic, like the mountain had grown them in self-defense. My helmet mic buzzed with static, then cleared, just enough to let a whisper through. It was Mandarin, but wrong. Each word slid backward, syllables reversed. I froze. So did Fay. "You heard it too," he said, not asking. I nodded. We pressed forward in formation, but every sound was wrong. The scuff of boots didn't echo. Instead, the cave seemed to inhale each footfall, keeping it. Sokolov paused near a wall slick with condensation, though our hygrometer read 0 moisture. He aimed his handheld scanner at the surface. The screen blinked white, then flatlined. The device sparked and died in his hands. He didn't swear, just muttered, "It's trying to see us." Through us. We reached a chamber where the ceiling yawned like a cathedral dome. Crimson veins laced the stone like roots. Through NVGs, the red pulse sharpened, an octagonal flare, symmetrical, alive. It hovered in thermal view, casting no heat. Zhang lowered his scope and blinked. I think it blinked back. No one laughed. The walls shifted subtly. Our chalk marks behind us were gone again. Sergeant Fay checked his watch. 2:17 a.m. Zue checked hers. 1:30 a.m. Mine read 3:41 a.m. We were out of sync, not just in direction, but in time. Lieutenant Liu snapped. "Keep your eyes forward." Private Chen whispered, "It's not the cave. It's what's beneath it." Just ahead, the passage forked. Left tunnel cold. Right tunnel radiated faint heat. Yet none of us carried sensors capable of tracking the source. Faye turned to me. "That red light, it's not reflecting. It's responding." And deeper in the glow, something shifted like it heard him. The tunnel narrowed into a throat of jagged basalt. The walls sweated mineral frost, yet the air felt hot behind my ears. Not temperature, something internal. Pressure. Behind me, Zhang flinched. "Did you hear that?" I did. My voice, calling out from ahead. But I hadn't spoken. Sergeant Fei turned fast. "Who said that?" "No one," I said. But I was lying. I'd heard myself, whispering orders I hadn't given. We advanced in silence. The rock twisted again. Geometry didn't hold. A straight corridor now curled to the left, but when I looked behind, it was a dead end. No sign we'd ever passed. Fei took a knee, placed a beacon. White LED pulse. It blinked twice, then vanished from view behind us, like the tunnel absorbed it. Lieutenant Liu called a halt. His voice shook. "Time check." I read 4:19 a.m. Fei, 2:41 a.m. Zhang's watch had stopped altogether. Sui Han's voice cracked over comms, picking up a signal under the static. "What kind?" Liu barked. Zhu's silence dragged too long. Then, heartbeat. Not ours. Under the hum. A deep vibration rippled through my spine. A frequency I didn't hear. Felt. Like my skeleton was being tuned. It had no source. It came from inside the walls. Fei stepped toward the cave wall. "It's warm here." Sokolov scanned the area with his backup device. It sparked, fried instantly. He didn't react, just muttered, "It sees when we see." Memory reacts to focus. I turned back. The path behind us was gone. Nothing. Solid rock. No way we could have entered. I radioed Lieutenant Liu. "Sir, we've lost our entry vector." He didn't answer, but over comms, Liu's voice came through. "Only." He was standing beside me. What he said chilled me to the bone. We weren't in the cave anymore. We were inside the sound. The walls shimmered like oil beneath our NVGs, colorless to the eye, but slick with a wrongness that pulsed on thermal. We broke into a junction chamber wide as a cathedral, the floor dusted with crimson sediment. Zhang was already there. He hadn't been ahead of us. He stood facing the wall, dragging his utility knife in looping curves across the stone. Spirals, dozens of them, each stroke deeper. His fingers bled freely, but his face was blank, ecstatic. "Zhang," I shouted, "stand down." He turned slowly, mouth open, eyes rimmed red, pupils constricted into points. "The curve is alive," he whispered. "It sees when we see." Fei tackled him to the floor. The spirals gleamed faintly behind us, carved deep into the rock, almost fused. Liu checked Zhang's pulse, muttering prayers under his breath. "We're pulling out," he said. Then Chen screamed. We followed his voice to a side tunnel. There, half fused to the cavern wall, were corpses, calcified. Bones twisted into fetal curls, their eyes glazed over with crimson film. PLA uniforms, decades old. One wore a rank tab we didn't recognize. Sokolov stepped forward, brushing frost from a helmet. His own GRU insignia stared back at him. Weathered, rusted. "They tried before," he murmured. "Didn't leave data." Zhu's radio spat static, then a burst of backward Mandarin. We froze. The red glow pulsed through our NVGs again, octagonal, refracting unnaturally. It cast no light, but my mouth dried instantly, like it had stolen sound from the air. Liu ordered a fallback. All units to surface route. We turned back the way we came. It wasn't there, just solid wall. The tunnel behind us had folded closed like scar tissue. Faye checked his compass. It spun wildly, then cracked down the middle. Our boots scuffed against damp stone. The temperature hadn't changed, but something colder had settled in us. Like the sound had weight now. The radios snapped alive, not static, not commands. My own voice, clear, desperate, saying words I hadn't said yet. "Back up, don't follow the light." I froze. Sokolov grabbed his unit, adjusted dials. "This isn't playback," he said. "This is inverted real time." He turned the receiver. The channel spit back another voice, Zhang's, sobbing, though Zhang stood silent beside him, eyes glassy. Then came the red pulse. Every NVG flickered. The octagonal flare expanded. No temperature shift, no light, just pressure inside the skull. We gritted our teeth. Shui tore off his headset. "The hum," he choked. "It's syncing with our pulses." Liu radioed for a group check. Everyone replied, but not with their own names. Fei called himself Sokolov. Chen responded as Zhang. The mix was immediate and infectious, like something had slipped between recognition and speech. "Check your tags," Liu barked. Half of us looked down and flinched. My name patch. Blurred. Not unreadable. Just unfamiliar, like someone else's handwriting in my uniform. Fei raised his weapon. "Who are you?" he shouted at Chen. Chen was praying, still on his knees, whispering, "She's coming through the red." I reached to stop Fei, but he fired. The bullet ricocheted off the wall. Chen hadn't moved. Then the light blinked again. We all turned. Someone was missing. "Where's Yue?" Liu asked. I scanned the line. Gone. No scream, no motion, just absence. A low bass note rolled through the floor. Everyone staggered. Then Sokolov muttered, "It's not broadcasting. It's remembering." He tapped his recorder. The timestamp was 3 minutes ahead, and it had already logged Fei's next sentence. Word for word. Even though he hadn't spoken it yet, the main chamber widened like an opening lung. Air didn't move, but it pressed in from all sides, thick with memory. Not ours. Not entirely. Our optics flared red. Octagonal glints everywhere, along the cave ribs, in each other's goggles, reflected in fragments of melting ice. But they didn't shine. They observed. Fei held position at the entry. His silhouette jittered in my peripheral vision, like he was flickering between frames. Sokolov stood dead center, eyes locked upward. The ceiling was alive. Crystalline layers shimmered like mirrored water, pulsing with the hum. Every pulse pushed into our heads, as if thought was no longer private. Zhang muttered behind me, "Sky. That's not sky." I looked down. The floor, granite before, now mirrored the heavens. Cities floated beneath us, upside down and distorted. Beijing, Moscow, Cairo, places none of us had been. Fei turned pale. "I just saw my mother. She died in '94. I was standing outside our apartment window. I think I knocked." Sokolov knelt beside a stone pillar carved with spiral veins. His hand hovered over it like it might burn. "It's not a cave," he whispered. "It's a recorder of us, of everywhere we've been and never were." I opened my mic to log the moment, but my voice cracked, repeating the last thing I'd said 2 hours ago. "Entry secure, no movement." The message played itself, out of sync. Then the hum escalated, like breathing through metal lungs. Zhang dropped to all fours, digging at his ears. "She's trying to hear us back," he gasped. I stared up again. One spiral vein on the ceiling pulsed slower than the rest, like a countdown. Fei backed toward the tunnel. That's when the light changed direction, not radiating, but folding inward. We weren't in the cave anymore. We were inside the sound. They found me 11 days later. barefoot and shaking in a crater of trampled snow outside the sealed cave. My uniform was crusted with frost. My nails were worn to the beds, cracked and red from scraping spirals into the ground. I don't remember the recovery, only the flash of a floodlight, the hum of a generator. I screamed when they touched me. The medics said I tried to claw my way through my own reflection in their visors. They sedated me. I woke restrained in a white-walled room. No windows. The light was always on, but I kept my eyes shut. I couldn't look at anything that reflected. Mirrors vibrated now. Even my own pupils shimmered if I stared too long. They showed me photos of the other team members. I shook my head to all of them, even when I knew their names. One doctor asked about Sokolov. I told him only his boots made it out. Later, I wrote my first sentence. The red curve is alive. It saw us see it. They asked what that meant. I said, she comes through the seeing. They moved me to a lower level. I was listed as psychologically unsalvageable. I stopped eating. I whispered to the walls, not because I was insane, but because they whispered back. Every night, I folded myself into corners where the light couldn't reach. I jammed towels under the doorframe. I unplugged every light. Because doorways bend now, and light remembers. The last time they entered my room, I pressed my hand flat against the wall. It didn't feel like plaster. It felt like glass with breath behind it. Someone watching from the other side. Not a person, not a thing. A sound, shaped like memory, waiting to finish its sentence. The cave was sealed by concrete the color of ash, 12 meters thick, reinforced, armored like a nuclear vault. No markings, no memorials. The ground around it was sterilized, flattened by tracked vehicles that never existed on any PLA manifest. I wasn't told about the seal, but I knew. I felt it set like a coffin lid. No one mentioned Sokolov. The GRU observer was erased from every record. All liaison documents vanished. Officially, no foreign presence ever entered Baigong. But I remember the accent. The way he said, it's trying to say something backward, with eyes like glass. 2 weeks after the cave was sealed, we lost contact with a high-orbit weather satellite over the Indian Ocean. It blinked off during a standard relay, then came back with a red flare in its logs. An octagonal distortion, identical to what we'd seen through our optics inside the cave. Only now, it was in the sky. Qinghai wasn't the first. Analysts cross-linked similar phenomena. Brief, impossible energy distortions at Dyatlov Pass. Another, in the Tanami Desert, deep in a sinkhole where Australian miners had reportedly vanished. Every case shared 3 things: red light, backward noise, no survivors who could explain it. We weren't exploring a place. We'd walked into a pattern, a memory repeating itself across the planet, fractures in geography where sound took shape and began to remember. A military briefing was held underground. I wasn't invited, but I saw the transcripts. One official called it a non-terrestrial echo artifact. Another said it was a breach, not from outside, but from within the fabric of place and time itself. No one knows what we found, but I do. We didn't discover the cave. It discovered us, and now it remembers the way out. They recovered my final journal 3 weeks after the funeral. Not from my quarters, but from inside a sealed data locker in Kunming Base, one I never had access to. The notebook was wrapped in gauze, as if someone tried to bandage the words. The last entry wasn't in my handwriting, not fully. It began like mine, stiff block letters, standard PLA script. But as the page turned, the loops warped, letters inverted, grammar folded in on itself. Some words were mirrored, perfectly symmetrical. Others bled off the edge of the paper like they were trying to escape translation. We were told to seal it, but it sealed us. Beneath that line, symbols, geometric, organic, not Tibetan, not Mandarin. I showed them to a linguist who went pale and said they looked like sound translated into shape. No one speaks of Baigong anymore. The mountain was cordoned under a new designation, a high-altitude atmospheric station. No satellites permitted within 300 kilometers. Even now, every map of Qinghai runs two sets of coordinates, one for civilians, one for us. But I can still hear it, when the room gets quiet enough, when static curls in the corner of my headset, when my pulse slows. The red isn't light, it's memory, pressurized, folding itself across reality like a wounded animal looking for a place to hide. Sokolov tried to warn us. He said it wasn't a message, it was a rehearsal, a recursive intelligence preparing itself to be noticed. I was the only one they found, but I wasn't the only one that came back. My last transmission is no longer classified. It plays automatically when the sealed channel activates. They say it's just data, a recording, but I never recorded this part. The glass watches back. We shouldn't have heard the echo. This deep in, the walls were thick enough to choke sound, but there it was, soft, hollow, and too slow to belong to us, a mimic. My breath caught every time it came back wrong. We set up a hold near a collapsed junction, a rough shell of broken basalt and twisted scaffolding. Corporal Jian crouched beside a rock, hands on his comms rig. His fingers twitched like he was tuning something too faint for us to hear. "There's a beat beneath the hum," he whispered. Slow, like a heartbeat, but not human. Listening back, his pupils were pinpricks, blood beaded at the corners of his ears. Sergeant Fay checked his explosives kit. The screen on his pressure gauge glitched, displaying reversed characters and a static pulse that didn't stop ticking, even when powered off. Zhang was muttering again. Spirals scratched into his arms with a rusted bolt. Spiral in, not out. Spiral in. GRU's Sokolov watched in silence. His boots had red dust on them. No one remembered seeing him move. Then LT Liu, calm as ever, stood straight and began issuing orders in Tibetan. But the words were reversed, like the language itself had been folded. I reached for him. He smiled, quiet, peaceful, then stepped through a breach in the stone wall that hadn't been there before. The breach closed behind him. Corporal Jian screamed. The rig on his back convulsed, wires threading into his jacket like veins. He collapsed sideways, blood seeping from his helmet like it had been fused. We didn't move. The echo returned. Same rhythm. But this time, it was mine. My breath, my voice. And it said, "This isn't geology. It's memory made physical." Marin's boots echoed like cathedral bells. Too deep, too wrong. Each footstep lingered in the air like memory refusing to settle. Our shadows moved before we did. The main barracks hall should have been wrecked. Instead, it was pristine. Beds tucked, lockers sealed. One had my name on it. Another bore Reeves, though Reeve was gone, or had never been. Marin spun suddenly, rifle aimed at Knox. "He's compromised," he barked. "Look at his eyes." Knox's pupils were wide but steady. No tremor in his voice, just confusion. "I'm fine, sir. You're scaring." The shot cracked. Knox fell backward, blood blooming on the wall like a spreading spiral. He whispered as he died, "She's watching me," through my own memory. I turned to Marin. His hands trembled. His mouth opened like he wanted to apologize, but didn't. Instead, he turned the rifle on me. "You're not Jian," he said. "You were never Jian. You're just what it remembers of him." Before I could answer, base-wide comms flared to life, not speech, a reversed whisper of Marin's own voice. I died 10 minutes ago. You heard me die. Marin dropped the rifle. Static swallowed the lights. The emergency red strips blinked alive and pulsed in waves. Too slow to be power surges. Too rhythmic to be anything but breath. Elgin's back pressed against the bulkhead. She was writing with her non-dominant hand, symbols coiling across the tablet screen. Her voice was low, distant. "Time's folding," she said. "We never got in. That's the trick." Every screen around us blinked. Marin's face appeared, staring, unmoving. His voice returned in my ear. "It's been watching you longer than you've been alive." The timestamp, -12 minutes, counting backward, and on the screen behind his face. My reflection smiled, but I hadn't. Elgin's notebook was wrong. Not in content, in shape. The letters curled leftward, mirrored strokes coiling in loops she couldn't have written unless her brain had rewired itself. She scribbled prayers, backward phonemes that sounded like Mandarin, but hurt to listen to, words not meant for mouths. We passed the infirmary again, Red's body gone, except now he sat upright, no breath, no blink. Elgin gasped. "He's not alive." I knelt. His skin was cold as frostbite steel, but then his eyes opened. "Which version is this?" he whispered. "What?" He stared through me. "Tell me, which version am I?" Then he slumped, as if asking the question used up what was left of him. Elgin pointed to the nurse's terminal. The screen flickered with a debrief video. I stared. It was me, sitting in a folding chair, answering questions, calm, clean, except, timestamp, 2 hours from now. I watched myself say things I hadn't experienced yet. "This is white silence protocol," Elgin said, almost choking. "Not an extraction plan, a record, a loop." She opened a drawer. Inside, sealed optical drives, marked greater than continuity host/observer echo. My name was stamped across each in blood ink. I tried to shut the system down. The interface didn't allow commands. It only replayed. And every log was finished. I watched myself die in 8 different ways. "I never said any of this," I murmured. Elgin stared at the playback. "You didn't." We hadn't escaped. We weren't fighting it. We'd already become part of its memory. It wasn't watching us anymore. It was us. We never left that chamber. Not in this version. Not in any. The final chamber wasn't on any of our maps. It just was. A steel aperture carved like a ventricular slit, rimmed in ice. No door, no latch. It pulsed every few seconds, exhaling a low, wet hum, like a dying reactor trying to breathe. Inside, the air smelled burnt, scorched hair and something colder than frost. We stepped in. No transition, no memory of entry, just inside. Our boots were wet, no water on the floor. Across the room, a cot. On it, me. I couldn't move at first, not from fear, from recognition. My own face, pale, still, eyes open. Above the cot, a blue LED flickered on. Text scrolled across the far console. Greater than drift recording in progress. Host synchronized, Rourke. I turned to Reeve. He wasn't there, only his boot prints ending mid-stride. The overhead camera whirred. No operator, no crew, just lens and logic. It tracked me as I moved closer to the body. My breathing matched his, perfectly. A whisper climbed through my throat, but it didn't come from me. End loop before cut off. Another screen blinked to life. Metadata scrolled too fast to read. The phrase repeated, "You are now host. You are now host. You are now host." I reached for my rifle. It was gone. In its place, a mic cord, plugged into my jacket, leading into the wall, pulsing like a vein. I pulled. It pulled back. The reflection in the console screen smiled, but I hadn't moved my mouth. A chill surged through my bones. Not cold, recognition, a loop collapsing. The aperture behind me closed. No sound, no seal, just wasn't there anymore. Then came my voice again. I'm sorry. I let it through. 12 hours after our final contact, a NATO-linked drone team reached the Baigong perimeter. The cave entrance was sealed shut under reinforced concrete, military grade, recently poured. But no authorization was logged. The base appeared cold. No heat signatures, no electromagnetic activity, just one continuous uplink transmitting static, and something beneath it. Inside, the lights flickered on without prompt. Cameras tracked movement, but the facility was empty. No signs of engagement, no weapons, no gear, no bodies, only footprints, ours. Then they found the logs, neatly stacked, time-stamped, synchronized, too clean. Helmet cam footage from perspectives that didn't exist. Voice recordings from men never deployed. My own voice, describing things I hadn't seen yet. In the control room, a monitor blinked. One file played without activation. Drift protocol sync, 14 of 14. Rorca status, stabilized host. Live response feed enabled. Then, my voice. You were never watching us. You were watching yourself be replaced. The drone operator froze, looked around. The hallway he'd come through was gone. Another screen displayed a reflection, but not of the operator. It showed me, standing inside the drift room, eyes open, mouth still. The metadata was updating in real time. He tried to shut it down. The feed pulsed red. Then I spoke again, clearly, directly to him. We made contact, in the wrong direction. He dropped the controller. The broadcast continued. No one has re-entered since, but the signal never stopped. Each replay of our mission becomes slightly wrong. Time codes drift. Audio phases in reverse. My voice now knows their names. They thought they were observing us, but they were watching something, watching them back. No one knows who authorized the final scrub, but the logs were extracted and sent to a black site deep in Xinjiang for containment review. A low-visibility debrief loop was run. Just voice, no visuals, until it broke protocol. Jian Wenlong's logs, my logs, began answering back. The playback operator asked for name verification. A pause, then my voice. This isn't playback. Another pause, then silence. The operator rewound, but the logs wouldn't reverse. They resisted, glitched forward, then replayed phrases in mirror form, syllables folding inside each other. Psych Review flagged one final entry, a corrupted segment with no timestamp, only the phrase, reflection synchronized. Then came the last clip. Helmet cam. Audio distorted. Visuals frozen. I'm standing alone in the drift room. A cable runs from my chest into the floor. My eyes are closed, but I'm whispering. I let it through. The whisper continues. The lights flicker. Then I open my eyes. The operator leans in, and I smile. On screen. That footage is now sealed under REDLEVEL5. But leaked fragments circulate, always slightly different. Sometimes I say your name. Sometimes the reflection blinks before you do. And every time, just before the screen cuts out, you hear it. The low hum beneath the static. Breathing. Alive. The report ends here, but the transmission hasn't. If you're hearing this, you've already started it, and it's looking through you now.